Welcome back to Plead Your Case. I'm Darrion Allensworth, and today we're going to be talking about the return of the XFL, NBA All-Star Weekend, and sports betting. So don't you go anywhere. You're watching Plead Your Case. Some of you may be asking yourselves, what is the XFL? The XFL is a fan-first, fast-paced global professional football league with innovative rules and an enhanced 360-game experience that is owned by Danny Garcia, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Redbird Capital Partners. The XFL will bring entertainment to world-class football with the goal of advancing football and expanding player opportunities. It has 8 teams that are split into 2 divisions, the North and the South. The North Division hosts the DC Defenders, Seattle Sea Dragons, St. Louis Battlehawks, and the Vegas Vipers, while the South Division is home to the Arlington Renegades, the Houston Roughnecks, Orlando Guardians, and the San Antonio Brahmas. They have a 10-week regular season where each team plays 10 games, each 5 at home and 5 away. Teams will play inside their division twice and outside of their division once. This season will conclude with the XFL Championship game played on Saturday, May 13th. So first, I'm going to introduce my panel, Will, Yocum, and Keegan, Raabe. Guys, how do we feel that the XFL is back?
Well, the XFL, I think, was the most exciting type of league to come in for football since I don't know when, because back in 2020 they had their initial season, and I remember watching that exclusively. It was such a change of pace. It was extremely entertaining. And I couldn't think of a better season or better, football aspected type of league to come in after the NFL. So the XFL coming back after its long hiatus from the pandemic is extremely exciting, and I'm happy to be a part of it, just to watch it.
Yeah, I really like the timing of the XFL right after NFL season. So fans are kind of like, where's football going to go? No more college football, no more NFL. Now XFL comes in, and they are bringing fans more football. More football is always a good thing for sports fans. And I just love that after the NFL season, we can watch them more and kind of see the players who aren't as skilled as the NFL players per se, that have potentially played in the NFL or just coming out of college, but give them an opportunity and see how they progress throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both put it perfectly whenever you said it's like the perfect time for the XFL to come out with just the Super Bowl ending and then, of course, college football not being here. For all you football fans, that's definitely something you like to see. But let's compare. Keegan, we're going to start with you with this one. Comparing the XFL to the NFL, what are things you like about that between the two?
Like I said, kind of seeing potential players that could make it to the NFL after their XFL stint, and then going to also the new rules for kickoffs. There's different kickoff rules in the XFL. You start 5 yards from each other, and the kicker kicks it off, and no one can move until the ball is touched, or it's been 3 seconds since the ball has been kicked off. I really like that. It kind of gives a more, I'd say, competitive edge. You have to actually get around players instead of players maybe being knocked back at, say, the 50-yard line, 45-yard line, where you actually have to get around players that are closer to you, and you have to return the ball more instead of just letting it go into the back of the end zone.
I'm going to have to say I'm a big fan of the new extra point system. That is, already in the games that we saw, that has brought a huge edge and a huge change to most of the games that we're used to from college football or the NFL and even the USFL. That's also going to be starting up here in about a month and a half. So that extra point system where you go for 1 extra point, 2 extra points, and even up to 3 extra points is extremely exciting and changes the aspect of the game. I mean, the San Antonio St. Louis game, that ended in a shock. Like, there was only a few minutes left, and St. Louis was down by so much, and just those extra points that they were able to get after their touchdown really changed the game, and they came out on top because of it. So that's one of my new favorite rules.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the St. Louis and San Antonio game, because we're going to get to that here in a second. But first, I want to get to the rule changes not rule changes, but the different rules that the XFL has compared to the NFL that, Keegan, you were talking about. One of them is there is no kicked extra points. Instead, teams decide to go for 1, 2, or 3 points after a touchdown. 1-point tries are from the 2-yard line. 2-point tries are from the 5-yard line. and 3-point tries are from the 10-yard line. Will, we'll go to you for this. What do you think about this rule?
Oh, it's perfect. I think it's way better than the NFL. I mean, the NFL, you can either go for 2 or 1. This one adds another 3 points. I mean, it does add a challenge because, you separate by yardage when you go for each point. If you want to go for 1, you're only a certain amount of yards. If you want to go for 3, you're almost like 15 yards away from the end zone. But it does add a more competitive edge to it because if you're down by so much and you're able to get a 9-point play out of it. If you're down by 9, you're able to tie up the game. Unlike the NFL, if you're down by 9, that's a 2-score possession. So to see this rule implemented in the XFL, that definitely changes the way this game's going to be played. And like I said, a lot of these games were decided by those extra point tries. Yeah,
I mean, Keegan, you're a kicker. How do you feel about this rule?
So actually, I like this rule a lot. It's used in flag football. A lot of national flag football leagues use this. They don't go for 3 points, though. They go for 1 and 2, but there's no kicking. It's all from the playing field and it's different yardage. I like it a lot, though. I've played in some flag football leagues where we've done this system, and it's really hard. If you think about it, scoring, you can run, but flag football, if you're playing, it's more of you have to pass and get it off. XFL is more, you can run, so it's not as challenging as, say, flag football, but I like it a lot, kind of giving a new aspect of the game and introducing new things.
Yeah, and with this rule change, I think fans really are appealing to it compared to some of the specific in the rules that a lot of people were complaining about in the regular NFL season. But getting into the games, we're 1 week down, XFL just starting here. Do you guys, I know it's kind of early to tell, but do you have a team that you guys put above the others, or maybe a team that you think is below everybody else?
Well, Keegan and I already probably touched on it before the show started. We're looking at the Houston Roughnecks. They were completely dominant over the Orlando Guardians. They just completely showed out defensively, offensively. They just could not be stopped. That could be said for the same. That could be said about Orlando possibly just not being on the same page. Defensively, they just weren't there, and the game ended 33-12 with Houston coming out on top of that one. It's argued. You can argue and say that one of the touchdowns that Orlando had didn't even count. That probably should have been called an interception. So already we're seeing some some refereeing issues in the league, but nonetheless, Houston was completely dominant, and I'm going to be excited to see how they take on the rest of this season.
Yeah, so like you said, we kind of talked before, talked about Houston. But another team, though, they lost. It's the Vipers. I really like this team. I think they can be good. I think one of the biggest reasons they lost was turnovers. They had 2 pick-sixes against them, and they had a fumble that was recovered by the Arlington Renegades. But their quarterback, Perez, threw for 249 yards. I think their offense is really good. They just have to stick with ball control. They have to focus on ball control, can't lose the ball as much, can't turn over the ball as much. I feel like they can be a very solid team, but that's kind of their rough area right now.
Yeah.
Only week 1, though. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's still 1 week in, a bit early to tell. The score of the Houston Roughnecks and the Orlando Guardians game, that was the only score that wasn't that was decided by more than 4 points compared to the rest of them, where the Arlington Renegades and the Vegas Vipers 2-score game. The St. Louis Battlehawks San Antonio Brahmas was a 3-point game, and then of course the DC Defenders at Seattle Sea Dragons a 4-point game. But is it because of the difference between the scores, the scoring between Houston and Orlando? Does that mean would you guys put Orlando maybe as the weakest team in the conference again? In the league again, 1 week in, kind of hard to tell, but. Would you guys maybe go that route, or maybe, as you said earlier, Will, just because it's they just weren't able to figure things out in the first game of the season?
Well, you kind of said it. It's the first game of the season. You can't judge a team based off the first week of the season. We can't call the Houston Roughnecks the XFL champions just yet. It's the first week. Yeah, they had a fantastic game against Orlando. They were all on point. Everything was clicking for them. But it's just the same as you can't say that, Orlando's the absolute worst team because there's other teams that lost. You could say the San Antonio Brahmas could be the worst because they gave up such a huge lead in the fourth quarter. They just had St. Louis come right back and win that game. A.J. McCarron led the drive for that one for St. Louis. So it's way too early to tell, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this season is going to be huge for football fans because this is not like the NFL where it can be pretty much easily predictable. It's more so like college football where anything could happen. The XFL is such a new league. It used to be in the early 2000s, and then it just shut down, and then it brought back in 2020, and then the pandemic shut them down. But at that time, they were huge. I mean, there was a big fan base, and I think it's going to be even huger. And I think when it comes to them competing with the USFL, I think viewership-wise, they definitely will be able to compete. So, I mean, it's really hard to tell at this point. It's just too early in the season.
Yeah, kind of what you said, Will. It's kind of too hard to tell. There's this league being so new. Like you said, you don't really know the players. You might have known from the college teams that you support, but other than that, it's too hard to tell what team's going to be great right now and what team is going to be a little rough. And I mean, week 1, you'll get that throughout the season in the next couple of weeks, but right now it's too hard to tell, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great discussion about the XFL, guys. Unfortunately, that's all the time we're going to have to talk about it. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the NBA All-Star Weekend. Another All-Star Weekend has came and passed. Another skills contest also came and passed. Guys, were there any surprises for you? Will, we'll start with you, for any of the winners of the contests.
Yeah, I think Mac McClung winning the dunk contest was a big surprise, not just to me, but should have been to everybody. I mean, the fans and some of the players at the courtside didn't really have too much of a reaction. That was kind of just how it was throughout the entire All-Star break. But Mac McClung winning the dunk contest, that's huge. He's a G League player right now. He's not even on a starting team right now. So him winning that was impressive. You know, it sucks that the fans and some of the players didn't give him that much of a recognition at the time, but that was just because that's how everybody was feeling. Nonetheless, that shouldn't take away the accomplishment that he did it in the dunk competition.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Mac McClung, G League player. Definitely surprising seeing him win it over some other guys. But another thing was Jason Tatum's 55 points, breaking the scoring record for the All-Star game. I mean, the All-Star game, no one's really going too hard in an All-Star game.
Yeah.
But 55 points against the best athletes in the NBA, pretty impressive. So the 55 points from Jason Tatum, pretty impressive to me.
I mean, do you think it's really, though, that impressive considering that the All-Star game really, there's like almost no defense played?
Well, that's what I was that's what I was saying before. It's hard to tell if it's impressive or not, but 55 points in a game, like, you got to be shooting pretty well to score 55 points in a game, defense or not, and especially to beat the record against NBA legends that have been in the game before.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I think my thoughts on the All-Star game is, you know, it comes down to what the fans want. I mean, there was a time where fans wanted high-scoring, low-impact type of game. They just wanted a ton of scoring. Well, then that takes away defense. If you're going to take away defense, then it's not going to be as exciting as you usually see in a regular season game. So now we're having people complain that there was no defense and that it wasn't as competitive. So it's kind of like down to us as fans is what do we want? Do we want a competitive game where we risk injury to our starting players that get to compete in this game? Or do we want the high-scoring, non-competitive type of game? And that's the game we're going to get. So if people found it boring, that's kind of on us for wanting that game. We said we wanted that, we got it, and now we're complaining about it again. So that's just kind of my overall view of how All-Star Weekend really was.
That's kind of what happens in the NFL, too. If you think about it, they just changed to the flag football. this year because of the injury and no defense, high-scoring games. Players not really, I don't want to say taking it too seriously, but it was fun. It was a fun game. I mean, all-star games should be. They should be fun games. You deserve to get there, but that's kind of the same path the NBA is going on now. Is kind of less defense, more high-scoring, and just kind of a more relaxed game.
I mean, the final score, high scoring, 184 to 175. I mean, the offensive power on both of those teams, because you said you have the best players in the world playing against each other. It's extremely incredible. But I think going to the injuries side, like All-Star break is normally used. I mean, players use it as a break. Teams use it to rest up to finish off the last part of the season. But players like Giannis Antetokounmpo had 2 points, didn't even complete a full minute in the All-Star game itself. And then LeBron James in like 14 minutes had 13 points but didn't play the rest of the time. Do you guys think, and they were the All-Star captains, do you guys think that it's fair that they got to just show up, play a little bit, and like leave instead of actually having other players that could have gotten to the All-Star game and would have played more minutes?
Well, I think here's what it was. Giannis came into the All-Star break already injured. I think he just wanted to score a bucket and then go back and coach a little bit. LeBron, on the other hand, I know he wanted to compete, but then he injured his finger on the rim when he went to block a shot. So, I mean, it's kind of weird in that sense. It's like, yeah, you do want to see other players get the chance to show out their skills and not have the captains of these teams play, but the end of the day, they are captains. They're still players in this league. They do get to play. It was just unfortunate circumstances that they weren't able to play.
Yeah, I wouldn't say kind of like what you said, Will. They are captains. Like, they should definitely still be in the game. I wouldn't say put other people in the game over them. They deserve to be there. They got voted as the captains. So I'd say keep them in there. But it's smart on their part. They still have a season to play. That's one thing I don't like about the NBA All-Star break. It's in the middle of the season. Like, yes, it's a good rest point, but there's still risk of injury. And it's smart on their parts to kind of not really go too long in the game.
Yeah, I can see that. I think, again, as I touched upon before, it's more of a rest for the players who are not even in the All-Star game, right? The stars of the All-Star game still get to go there, watch the competition, hang out with their families, and give them that time to themselves. But would you rather, I think I want to hear your personal opinions on this. Would you guys rather it be more competitive, and as a fan, it being more so of a low scoring game, but a lot more competitive, maybe have something more important riding on the line of the game? Or do you guys like seeing this just a showcase of offensive power?
I think showcase of offensive power and just not much competitiveness in this. I mean, like Keegan said, this game's supposed to be fun, and you're not going to have fun if you're going to be, talking trash to the guy across from you and maybe even wanting to, knock him out or anything. You're not going to have fun that way. You all are there for a reason. You guys were voted. Some people say that the All-Star game is pretty much a, like a favoritism contest, like
popularity contest. Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly. So I would love to see offensive prowess. I love to see just guys take the break and just show their skills off, because they rightfully earned that spot on that team, and they deserve to show out without getting injured. Because like the All-Star break this time, they gave these guys that didn't play in the All-Star game a 9-day break. So this was a perfect amount of time for them to rest up for the rest of the season. So it should just be simple, fun, easy, and an explosion of offense, in my opinion.
See, as a fan perspective, I'm a competitive guy. I love seeing competition. I love watching sports that are competitive, close games. So from a fan perspective, yes, I would like to see it more competitive, but also you have to think as a organization perspective, you don't want your guys getting hurt. You don't want to, if they do get hurt in a competitive All-Star game, you don't want to lose fans then because they're not the big players aren't playing in the regular season games or even the postseason games if they suffer a significant injury.
Well, as the All-Star Weekend kind of signals every year, since it's in the middle of the season, that we're on the back stretch of the season, The award races, I think, are pretty close as far as MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. Do you guys have like a candidate in mind you guys would want to see win one of these awards?
So I have a couple here, and this is purely my personal view of what I've seen this season. So for the MVP, this is what I saw in an article too. A lot of people for the MVP have Jokic winning for the third year in a row. I don't want to see that happen. I already had enough problems, with Aaron Rodgers winning 2 years in a row. That was a problem with me. So, I love Jokic and everything, but I don't think he should win a third one in a row. For me, I think maybe Luka should get a shot at winning the MVP. I think he's played stellar, as he usually does. I think he's played very well, and I want to see him actually get that MVP spot because he's an MVP caliber type of player. Next for me, I guess Defensive Player of the Year. There was a couple of names here: Giannis, Draymond Green, Brook Lopez, or even Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't really have. Those are just some of the names I saw, and I just put them down as a consideration. So those are a couple that I had down.
Yeah. So for MVP, I'm actually kind of surprised you took Luka over Jokic. I know the 3 times in a row, like you said, you don't really want to see that, but he's having a pretty solid season compared to Luka. Luka is first in scoring, obviously, that's a huge thing for him, but 21st in rebounds, and then he's 42nd in field goal percentage in the league, where you have Jokic, who's 19th in points per game, 6th in rebounds, 3rd in assists, and 6th in field goal percentage. So he's top 20 in every single category. I think it's hands down Jokic and not Luka, because Luka just hasn't shown as much this year as Jokic has. Even though he's won it, this could be his 3rd time in a row winning it. I think if you deserve it, you deserve it. You can't argue with deserving it if you have it 3 times in a row.
That's a fair point. I'm not going to argue with that on that one. If he wins the third one, he wins the third one. I can't say much.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to have to build on that, Keegan. I think Jokic, especially leading the Denver Nuggets to the best record in the Western Conference, kind of builds the hype up for him getting another MVP. For me, it would be Most Improved Player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I still don't think he gets nearly enough credit as he should, even though he just made the All-Star game, but I really hope he gets it. But that is all the time we have for talking about the NBA and All-Star Weekend. When we come back, we're going to be talking about sports betting. Don't you go anywhere.
Have you ever been to the Everly Library? If not, you should, because it's great. They have books of all different genres: history, biography, fiction. Try The Evolution of Life, Life of Pi, or Jurassic Park. So what if books aren't your thing? Try movies like Frozen, or TV shows like Lost. Books and DVDs aren't the only thing, though. Take a trip to the 2nd floor. Welcome to the Writing Center. These tutors will tell you everything you need to know about writing a paper, and they'll help revise your essays. Now let's head back down. Behold, the Knox Learning Center. Need to print something out 5 minutes before your next class because you procrastinated? No problem. You can also print off pictures of dogs. Because, well, you can. So grab your homework, laptop, and textbook, and study diligently. Bring your lunch too. Actually, you can't. That's illegal. Now you know the Everly Library. Stop by anytime. Seriously, it's open all week.
Addiction experts fear a coming national epidemic to rival the opioid crisis. Quote, gambling is a very different addiction from drugs or alcohol, said Leah Nauer, a professor and director of the Center for Gambling Studies at Rutgers University. Quote, if I'm drunk or high, at some point my family's going to figure it out. With gambling, I can be sitting with my kids, watching cartoons, and gambling my house, my car, everything I own on my mobile phone. How would you know? End quote. So, guys, sports betting, it's becoming a very popular thing. Keegan, we're going to start with you. How do you feel about it?
So I would say in an age group we are in right now, and I know people I know and I'm friends with, it is an addiction. You see the price and you see what you can win, and people our age think, oh, I can win that money. I'm maybe in college, or I don't have that much money right now, and they think, I'm just going to keep going and going and going until I win a big amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's just a waste of money. I think it kind of ruins the fan experience. Because if you're watching a game, you're not going to enjoy it for the aspect of the game. You're watching it, it's like, oh, is my leg going to hit? You know, is it going to hit? Am I going to win some money from this? Like, I don't think that really expands the fan experience. So, for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the sports gambling thing that's been going on.
Well, I think, wouldn't you guys, like, as fans though, wouldn't it be like it's kind of cool to almost like have something at stake? Like maybe not even cool, but like almost the adrenaline rush of having something at stake during the game. Do you guys like kind of, would you feel similar like that as from a fan perspective?
I think that's why people keep doing it. You have the adrenaline rush. Like you're going to win a lot of money. Like I said, you have the adrenaline rush. You watch the game more. It's actually pretty smart for organizations to have that. Like the NFL, I know people bet on the NFL all the time. FanDuel made in between 2.95 billion and 3.2 billion last year from sports bets. So it's from an organization and a company standpoint, it's very smart because of that adrenaline rush. But for a fan's perspective or even a sports bettor's perspective, it's just not smart. I think people get caught up in that and can't stop, and they think they're going to hit big. But, I mean, some people do, some people don't. You never know, but it's just wasting money away, like Will said.
Yeah, no, I have enough on the line when it comes to my fantasy football team when I'm watching football rather than, wondering if a player is going to reach this amount of yards or get this amount of touchdowns. So worrying about my fantasy team is enough to make me think, oh, this is what's on the line. Like, I mean, that's enough for me. I don't want to go wasting my money on like a bunch of parlays just to be able to get even more. Like I can waste like, I don't know, 82 cents to maybe even win 42,000. Like that's just not it for me. I don't want any part of that. I'm fine with just doing fantasy football teams or just fantasy teams in general. That's enough for me.
I mean, me personally, I mean, I'm not really sports betting has never really been a thing that's like attracted my attention. However, I will say, like, I mean, for those people, and I'm not entirely sure, but for those people who just win and win and win and just keep winning, I mean, the amount of money you can make off of it is kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, those people that have good luck, would you tell them to stop?
I mean, there's a certain point, though. If you're having good luck and all of a sudden you don't hit, I mean, no one's going to hit every single time, I don't think. But if you're having good luck, you don't hit, but you think you had good luck before, so you keep going, and that's kind of what makes an addiction. You keep going, and try to get that luck back, but that's just, like we said before, wasting your money away. And people build these big parlays, and if one of your things on your parlay doesn't hit, you don't win any money. So they'll put a bunch of money down, and as the parlay grows, you get more and more legs on the parlay. More money grows up, more money goes up, and you can't stop it. You just keep seeing the price, and you put a bunch of money down, and if one leg doesn't hit, you lose all your money.
It makes it worse with all the free bets that a lot of these apps are giving you. I mean, they give you a ton of free bets just like where you're losing no money. You're losing their money, and if it hits, you just made money. Like, that's enticing for a lot of people, but for me, I say if you're on top and you like won like maybe 3 in a row, stop. Like I would tell them to stop just because you're not going to be able to the more you keep winning, and then eventually you're going to hit a downward spiral where you continuously lose money, and that's just going to become a personal issue for you, and it's not going to be an issue for these sports betting apps. They don't care. You're the one giving them the money, and they don't care. So I would say if you're on top, stop.
Quit while you're ahead.
Exactly.
These businesses, these sports betting apps, they obviously they know what people want, and then they're definitely. I don't want to like put it in the term of taking advantage of it, but that's essentially what they're doing. Do you guys think that sports betting is a big enough problem that it should be addressed, whether it's made illegal again, or do you guys think that it's fine where it's at? Sure, there are people who have problems doing it, but it's not completely out of control.
You can go, yeah.
All right, yeah. I would say that give it another year. I mean, last year the big thing was, what was it? Cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. That was the big thing last year, and that was like there were so many ads all over. The entire Super Bowl was pretty much just cryptocurrency ads. So, and that only lasted a year, and then that just fell off the face of the earth. So give it another year, and if it's still big and popular next year, and next year's Super Bowl too, then maybe start to address it. But this could just be another thing where it's it's popular for a year and it might just fall off. I don't know.
Yeah, but the other thing about that, though, is sports will never go away. Like, sports are here to stay. It's the biggest entertainment, like, people go to see or even watch on TV. So it's never going away. I don't think sports betting could go away. I don't think it's going to go away for a long time, though. And I think it is pretty serious problem. I kind of found this surprising. Every 1 in 5 people sports bet. Like, in the Super Bowl, every 1 in 5 person sports betted on the Super Bowl. And on different parts of the Super Bowl, I know there was a thing of Gronk kicking a field goal where people bet on that. And it's just silly little things like that. Why waste your money on things you don't know are going to happen?
And people, again, I mean, we talk about it. Sometimes it's just the rush or the good luck that people enjoy just riding on. If you guys had to, and Keegan, we'll start with you for this one. If you guys had to give a solution for sports betting, whether it's change it a little bit or get rid of it completely, what would your solution be?
I would say restrictions on what you can spend. I know a bunch of sports betting apps have a minimum of what you can spend on a bet or like a parlay, but I think limiting it so you can only spend a certain amount would definitely help. We still see states who don't let online sports betting happen yet. Florida's one of those. Ohio just legalized online sports betting. So that's a huge thing too in this problem. You have more states opening up to the option of sports betting, and it just grows and grows and grows until now it honestly is starting to get out of control.
Yeah, no, he took the words right out of my mouth right there. I mean, just put a maximum amount of money that you can bet on, just a max limit. You can't go above that, meaning you can't win like an outrageous amount of money from a bet. I think that would definitely help the problem. That would turn a lot of people away from it because they want to win as much money as possible and they believe in themselves to do it. But setting a max limit on the money you can spend on a bet, I think would definitely help out the problem just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean the amount of extreme, I think, would definitely go down if you put a lock on how much you can spend. So I agree with that. But quitting while we're ahead here, that is all we have for you today here on Plead Your Case. Tune in next week, same time. You guys have a great night.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.